confirmation hearing for Donald Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. The issue of Syria came up, namely the atrocities that were committed by Bashar al-Assad, Tulsi Gabbard's previous comments about them, and her previous meeting with Bashar al-Assad in Syria. In a 2017 interview with Wolf Blitzer, she questioned reports that Assad's forces had used banned chemical weapons, saying there's responsibility that goes around, Wolf. Again, my interest is in bringing about peace. Standing here and pointing fingers does not accomplish peace for the Syrian people. It will not bring about an end to this war. The senators also asked about her trip to visit Assad back in 2017, during which she claims that she pressured him on his treatment of his own citizens, including his use of chemical weapons. Here's more.
Do you accept the conclusion broadly that Assad used chemical weapons against Syrians?
Yes, and I'm on the record for years of agreeing with that broad assessment.
Thank you. Among the attacks the U.S. assessed Assad was responsible for, two that occurred in Douma and Khan Sheikhoun in Syria. As a member of Congress and as a presidential candidate, and as recently as this month, in your written responses to this committee, you have cast doubt on the assessment that Assad is culpable in these two attacks. Is that still your position?
Senator, I raised those questions given conflicting information and evidence that was presented at that time.
Okay.
So it is interesting because usually when it comes to Assad's use of chemical weapons, there is widespread agreement that he did use chemical weapons against his own people during the war. But there were those two instances that were outlined by the senator there that for whatever reason has led to a lot of disagreement, a lot of fighting about what's true and what isn't true. It is a complicated story. My opinion personally is if Bashar al-Assad has used chemical weapons against his own citizens, I mean, that's it. That's all you need to know. And that's a problem, right? So I don't know why you need to provide cover for him in two separate cases. But that has been her view. That has been a point of contention between Tulsi Gabbard and other members of the Democratic Party when she was identifying as a Democrat. What are your thoughts, Cenk?
Yeah, so I interviewed her back when we were friendly, and she explained why she went to go see Assad, and it never made any sense to me. It just, with the best reading of it, it's still totally irrational. How does it help you? How does it help at the time the left wing, now I guess the right wing? I don't know. I just don't know how it helps in any way, shape, or form. And look, we've gone through the evidence on that, on the chemical use, and gotten into huge fights over it, et cetera. In our opinion, not it's just our opinion, but based on what we have read and overwhelming evidence, we think that Assad did use those chemical weapons. The idea that the rebels just don't have an air force and they were dropped from the sky. So I don't want to relitigate the whole thing, but either way, she should be clear. So do you think that he used them, or don't you think that he used them? You're saying conflicting evidence. Okay, yes, but we came to a conclusion. You seem to have come to a conclusion before. Have you changed your conclusion, or are you just now confused?
Yeah, and by the way, let me just say something about meeting with Assad or with any other, dictator or terrible, world leader. I don't actually have a problem with taking those types of meetings. What was problematic about how Tulsi did it is it was a trip that was paid for by Assad's regime. Assad's regime invited her, they paid for the trip. So when that happens, obviously it's going to be a propaganda mission by the Assad regime. And so it's one thing when you're taking a trip like that and talking to world leaders in an effort to use diplomacy, figure out what's going on. You're funding your own trip. There's no, questionable, nefarious influences. Like, that's fine, but that's not what happened here. Yeah. And after she got caught, after it became a big news story, she alleged that she returned the money for the trip to the Assad regime.
Yeah, okay, super important to note that Assad regime initially paid for it, but I have a problem with it either way. Look, You guys have heard me say 1,000 times, you negotiate with your enemies and they're not your friends. So if the president, whether it's President Biden or President Trump, negotiated with Assad, I would have had no problem with that, none. Go meet him, no problem. Trump met Kim Jong-un. Yeah, no problem. And that's how you do it. When Dick Cheney said we don't negotiate with evil and rejected a peace deal with Iran, it was stupid, etc. But she was a rando congresswoman. She wasn't the president. She wasn't negotiating anything. And so sometimes that caused a lot of trouble. Well, like when Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan for no reason and flared up more conflict in the region. And even then, at least she was like a Speaker of the House or former Speaker of the House. But why? She seemed to have gone just to agitate things. And of course, afterwards, there was a lot more military sales that happened, and her donors were super happy. So I think these random visits by people not negotiating peace are problematic.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair analysis.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below, because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We could be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.